Welcome to Music and Medicine. Welcome to Music and Medicine. Welcome to Music and Medicine. I'm your host, Dr. Moshe Lewis. Welcome to Music and Medicine. I'm your host, Dr. Moshe Lewis. I'm so excited and so ecstatic today to be joined by Robb Diggy. He is a composer that you've heard, and hopefully you've also had a chance to meet him and see some of his work in shows like The Family Business. And he has scored over 100 different films. And if you have the time to get through his IMDb profile, you'll see a lot of them there. It doesn't capture everything, but he's done things from shorts to full features, TV series, and things like that, and everything in between. Welcome, young man.
Hey, how you doing, Moshe? Nice, doctor. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Sure.
It's Moshe?
Yeah, exactly, Moshe. That's great. That's what
okay, yeah, that's what's up. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it means Moses. So I am a connoisseur. I love music, and I wanted to find out sort of where your love and how your inclination towards it developed and began.
Oh, wow. As a kid, like every other kid, you have not necessarily a dream. I wasn't trying to have a dream to do music. I was just always surrounded by it. Surrounded by music. And my uncles, they had a band, and we just latched on and saw them, my brothers and I, we saw them practice in the front room, and from there, we just all picked up their instruments and started like individually playing, and one thing led to another, and there you go.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I'm not mistaken, you're a multi-instrumentalist.
Yeah, trombone, percussionist, keys, guitar, bass.
Sure.
Brass. Because I was in the marching band in school, college.
When you were young, what do you think was one of those pivotal moments where you really felt, gosh, I have a knack for this? Because when you start talking about being able to play multiple instruments, that's not something that everybody can do. It is a very small set of people.
Yeah, I didn't, it wasn't in me then. Mm-hmm. I was playing sports. I was baseball, football, we played in Chicago, of course, winters were brutal. So we stayed out in the cold and played football. And right now, I don't know if you can see this on, my finger. I have a bum finger. Both of them are bum, from playing as a kid. So my whole thing was, I knew I played guitar early on at 10,
sure.
At 10 years old, watching my uncles and things like that. But that wasn't like a super focus.
Sure.
I was just a kid, So it only happened, I believe, when I was 13 or 14, and asking the band director at the school, could I play in the jazz band?
Right.
And he told me no. He told me no.
Right.
Yeah, so, but the guy that was in the band was super great. And he was like he went on to be like a super professional guitar player, guitarist, and all his kids are now, but I wanted to be just like Rodney. And I told him that the other day on Facebook. I said, it's because of you that I was inspired more so, because the band director told me I couldn't play in the band.
Right.
And I felt slighted a little.
Absolutely, a lot.
And then high school has it where I didn't want to be at the high school that I attended. I didn't want to go to the high school. You remember the movie Cooley High?
Yes, of course, sure.
Well, my school at the time, because I'm 58 now, so the school I went to was John Marshall High School, and it was west side, but Cooley High was on the north side of town, but it was a very, very low income high school, you know, and so basically if you were in the neighborhood, this is the school you went to. So I didn't want to go to Marshall. I wanted to go to Westinghouse High School, where Mark Aguirre had went.
Okay.
A lot of the pros, Kenny Anderson, a lot of those guys had graduated from, and I wanted to follow in their footsteps, only for greatness purposes, to say I can do, not necessarily play basketball,
sure,
but but just to go and kind of have that feeling of, saying, wow, I'm doing something that these guys, they went to a vocational high school, and I wanted to go to a vocational high school. I thought I was going to work on cars maybe.
Right.
But the counselor at Marshall said, oh, stay here a semester and join the band. I'm like, I don't want to join the band.
I don't want to be here.
I'm 14 years old. I'm like, I don't want to join the band. And it didn't work out at Westinghouse because the transfer was too late to get in.
Right.
And so joining, she says, well, join the beginners band. So I joined the beginners band.
Right.
And the guys in the neighborhood says, well, if you play trombone, you'll be with us. You can hang with us. So right. I joined the band as a freshman. And by September through December, the band director had put me in advanced band.
Right. Okay.
My first year. And
sure.
Thanks to Delano O'Banion, my high school band director. But at 14, he put me in the advanced band, and I was coming in the mornings practicing with the big kids.
Right.
And,
okay.
But playing third chair, of course, and I've always played third chair. Sure. And so I didn't care as long as I was with the big guys, Right. And so as my sophomore year and everything, I improved more so. And man, for long, I got a scholarship.
Wow. Amazing. So tell us about that. Like, where do you feel sort of that crystal moment became, or at least occurred? Was it really because of some of the music that you played, or some of the props that you were getting, some of the respect from the girls? What was it that really kind of had you feel like, okay, I could stay here and this isn't so bad?
Well, it wasn't the girls. It just wasn't the popularity. It was just me finding my way. I just talked to my high school band director a couple of days ago, and he says, do you remember the argument we had because you did not want to be in the band? You did not want to stay. And I had to he actually called my mom and my dad up. And that was the only time of my life that my parents had come up to the school. Right. Because I was acting rebellious because I didn't want to stay in the band. And this man was on me. He said, you got it, you're going to do this, you're going to stay. And I didn't want to stay. So it was just growing up.
Yes.
14, 15 years old. And I guess once I got back in the band, I forgot about the argument, the conversation period. And I continued to play my horn, and I got really good at it. And I was so good that I was out playing a lot of the other cats, but still playing third chair, of course, because I wasn't a great reader.
Okay.
I wasn't a super great reader. And I trusted my ears. And if I heard somebody play it, I can remember it.
You got it.
And I was so good at that. So that golden moment, I would say, was my senior year when the college band director at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff offered 7 of us scholarships, seniors that year. But he had gotten seniors before. Sure. He got no seniors before. So basically it was like, hey, you got any more? I said, yeah, I got more. I'll send you some. How many you want? So every year, around, I guess, 80 something. So every year he would send seniors down to the school with scholarships. I never had to audition. And it was a thing where, you got a scholarship waiting, you take it. But I had other offers as well. Sure. I had offers at Bethune-Cookman, Delaware State, Mississippi, and somewhere in Louisiana State. So I had a few choices, but I chose UAPB because all my friends were going there. I would be comfortable. And people that had graduated from Marshall were already there. So it was like a big family. So every year during that time, they would have a higher population of kids from one high school out of state. We had the highest population of band students, and then it turned into academics. So I thought that was pretty cool, but that was where it all started, getting that scholarship. And then after 4 years of that, graduating and then going out into the world or whatever, and just doing COVID, right after COVID. Right. No, actually, we're still doing COVID. It was the end of that era. I was inducted into the Hall of Fame there. Wow. So I'm a Hall of Famer at the school for media and arts entertainment. Right.
And who were some of the key inspirational people to you at that time, just from a musical perspective?
Oh man, I could roll them off now. Don't get me started. And you probably have heard, you've ever heard of Skip Dillard? Not Skip Dillard, Skip Pruitt, Benjamin Pruitt, Skip Pruitt. He's a saxophone player. When I got to college, he was cold. He was really good. Skip Pruitt. We had a guy named Larry Braggs who sang. He was a singer. There was another guy by the name of Morris Hayes who played keys in the band I played in. And Morris had went on to play with Prince for 20 years. Wow. And so he was always a good inspiration for me. And I tell him to this day, I say, man, thank you so much. And so it was cats like that. And I saw how the older guys in the band, they were just so polished. Sure. And I wanted to be just like them. So I practiced every day. I practiced my horn, I practiced piano, and I practiced guitar. And that was the start of me really blossoming into a musician,
Right. Now, it's a tremendous leap from being someone who modestly says that they didn't read to somebody that starts composing. How did you make that transition out of college? And I know you didn't start composing until late,
late. Yeah, I got late.
But still, what you consider to be a late start, 10, 13, many people still don't know what they want to do when they leave high school.
Yeah,
so,
it was a situation where, I can read, don't get me wrong.
Sure,
I can read, I read now, I have to. But with this whole invention of this computer thing, yes, you don't have to now, because everything, you can type a key and all your notes come on the screen.
Right.
Shows you your individual notes as well as the chords.
Right.
I'm saying, okay, I'm playing A flat minor, playing a B flat minor. So if I'm playing with a band or something and they're calling out chord changes, I know the changes because, you have to know how to read a little bit. So that's how that worked. But the transition, like I said, I didn't get started till late scoring.
Right.
98, 99, somewhere around in there.
Right.
97, yeah, late.
And how did that come about? How did you sort of transition from being sort of more of a front person to more of a writer?
Hanging in the studios with cats. Right. I was always the cat that they called for every session. These cats were like just producers and they didn't necessarily play. And no diss to them, it's just that they didn't play. So I'd be in one room, hey Rob, we need you over here. We need you for guitar. We need you for horn. We need you for keys. So I wound up in the loft. We had a loft space, and one of the guys had a studio, film. He was doing film editing. Right. And I walked in, because we were all friends, and then I just walked in his room, and he had this movie up. And he says, I said, I bet you I could put music to that. I just said it. And he was like, for real? I'm like, yeah. He said, go get your stuff in the other room. So I went and got my stuff, set it up. And the scene was a tranquil scene, kind of somber. And got through it. He was like, oh man, I think we could do this. He says, and you finished the whole movie? I'm like, yeah. So I did it. And, I didn't get much for it, but it was a start. And back in the day, you're talking about I think 96, somewhere around in there. Mm-hmm. Know nothing about time code. Right. About locking no film. No. I just played the music and put it on I think it was a DVD at the time.
Right, exactly.
I said as well, and gave it to them, and then they would transfer it off and then lock it into the film based on what I would say, cue-wise. If I say, start the music when he says, I love you, then start.
Right.
And that's how I did it for a few years.
Right, keeping it truly simple. I wanted to highlight, though, a point that you brought up that I've talked to other composers about, and that's sort of being willing, some people call it $10 an hour, pay your dues, that early on, this isn't Golden Globe, Oscar-worthy pictures that you're getting, paid six, 7 figures for. Talk about sort of putting in that time to be willing to sort of learn your craft and hone it by not really, basically being able to come within budget to help somebody get their score done.
Yeah, that's a problem now. And people, if they have the budget, I have to be mindful to say, what's your budget?
Right, yeah.
Versus saying, well, how much you gonna charge me? Well, what's your budget? And then I can, I just by the minute. So If the film is an hour and say 30, then I know what to charge based on that.
Okay.
You know, a lot of people will say, "Oh, well, I can't afford that." Well, then you need to go find another composer. I use the term close and play producers or composers. Go find your close and play guy. You remember the old phonograph when we was kids? You close and play and open up and play.
Exactly.
So I use that. So I was just not demoted, but I was out the country. I spent half my time in Dubai a lot.
Yeah.
And so I got this phone call, and the guy was like, "Well, can't use you. I can't afford you." Started this film. He says, "I can't afford you." And I said, "Well, okay." So I did one score. So I think what he did was take old scores and combine them and put them in the film.
Sure.
He's very skillful at that. And then he put my name on the film. So I'm like, okay, if that works for you and you're not paying me, that's fine.
Right.
So,
and I want that geography check, because you mentioned these minor details and they're huge. There aren't too many people born and raised in a place like Illinois and then, spend a good part of the time in Dubai. How did that all come about, and how do you keep those two lives juggled? Because, you're talking about a place that's so far away.
It is. It's a juggle because, I'm waiting on a phone call now with a Zoom call with one of my guys, one of my bosses over there. They found me on IMDb, and it was a movie called The Gandhi Murder.
Yes. And
with The Gandhi Murder, they were seeking a composer, so I immediately hit them back. Hey, I'm down. So we got the communication started for about maybe 3 years, or 2.5, I think, something like that. Maybe about 1.5 years. And I got to know them through Zoom, and Skype and stuff like that. And next thing you know, they were like, "Yo, would you like to come over here and finish the film?" I'm like, "Sure." Who would turn on a trip to Dubai,
Exactly.
And been over there for almost a year, because they made a lot of mistakes in getting the movie done with the editing. So every time that they would edit and cut, that meant I had to re-score in those areas sometimes. So shifting the film to try to make it fit the new cut, that was a pain. So I remember it was December, and I said, "Well, hey guys, I'm about to leave in a few days. Now, what do you guys want to do?" So they was like, "Well, can you stay?" I'm like, "Yeah." Yeah, so I wound up staying longer. And they immediately says, "Well, we'll do all the transactions for your bank," and because I was paying my rent, electronically, so everything was being paid for right, sitting down in the hot sun, So now I go back often now. So I'm leaving in April again, but I did a master class there as well. So I found ways to use my talents while I was away from home. Says, well, if I'm away, why don't I just go over to the university where the kids are and find out? And I just stumbled one day, just walking, stumbled across a school called SAE Institute, found them, and it was Sunday, and they were already gone, because they do go to school on Sundays. Sundays is like a regular day for them. And the lady gave me the information, and I came back the next day. I emailed her, and we started a chain. And next thing you know, I'm at the school doing a whole master class.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. So that was pretty neat. So he remembered me when I went back this past October. I was there, and so he was like, "Hey man, let me know when you want to come back. We can set something up."
Right.
With pay, of course.
Right. That's the most important part. What things have you really sort of admired and learned about that culture that you may not have appreciated before?
I've always appreciated kindness and things like that. There's a lot of kindness over there. I don't know. I just think the whole culture there, they don't look at people like they're gonna judge you for what you're wearing. Right. Not getting around your question, but I'm just saying they don't judge you. So if you're a big guy, the small guy, whatever, and then they pay you to lose weight. Okay. and gold, and ounces of gold. They pay you to lose weight. So nobody's, and that goes back to the health thing. They're not, you know, there are a lot of big people there, but they concentrate on a lot of health, which over here we take for granted. You know, we see it on the ads and things like that, but we don't take advantage of it as much as we should. You're talking about every store, every restaurant, I'm not even making this up, probably like 90% of the restaurants that you go to have a juice bar.
Right.
And I'm like, wow, fresh juice. So now I don't have to worry, because I don't drink pop, so I don't have to worry about getting a Coke or something like that, unless I have a little chest heartburn. But having fresh juice and things like that, pretty much everywhere you go, you know. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Now, the obvious question, because I don't want to ignore the elephant in the living room, literally, is just sort of that adaptation, especially having grown up in a much cooler climate. You had talked about it before in terms of the intensity of the winters, which, you know, still continues to be the fact. And there, they can be voraciously hot. How did you make that adjustment, or how have you found that?
You mean from going from Chicago over to there, or just being in Chicago?
Right. It's not something as often as you might think that somebody would literally be able to find comfort in so different settings. Although you are, you know, sometimes going there in the winter. Right now, you are actually.
Yeah. Those I adjusted pretty well. I mean, like my hotel, I live in an apartment, but would be like, say, only 15 minutes walking.
Okay.
But then I'm taking a cab because it's so hot.
Right.
So I'm getting a man $20 to take me around the corner to then I can walk.
Sure.
Here, I love the winters here. It's snowing outside now.
Right.
I can hear it hitting my window. But I hope and pray for, say for instance, like say feet of snow, maybe 5 feet. If we could get it, I would love that, you know.
Wow.
That means nobody have to go outside, you know, less crime, you know, in the winter time, things like that, you know. But over there, I noticed my hair was blacker, you know, my skin was richer, you know, I clean skin. Right. And I, of course, drank bottled water, but over here, you know, of course, you don't get a lot of sun because it's the winters, you know, so when I'm there, you know, I'm getting all this vitamin D, and I'm like, wow. Right. So that, I believe that's what kept me energized too. You know, that sun.
Right. Kept you, healthy. No, that's true. It definitely has significant value. So the challenge, right, not too much sun that we get danger, but still not being able to neglect it, because when you're indoors a lot, sometimes the bones can get weak. So while you're super modest, and I don't know if you feel comfortable enough to give us any listening sample, but word on the streets is you've worked with some pretty famous singers. How did you come about to get that opportunity? And then how did you just sort of hear the music to be able to do the remix in your head?
Once again, remember I said about my ear?
Yeah.
And in this case, I've only met a few of the artists, not a lot, because the remixes come in as audio files.
Right, sure, of course.
And we just do the work. So listening to say Beyoncé, and just saying, wow, she's in the key of A flat. Let me go to the keyboard and play A flat chord. Sure. And let me see if this chord fits her voice. Mm-hmm. You know, and then what's the next transition or the next, you know, few bars or whatever. So you can kind of play like, what they call it, enharmonic. You can play around. If it's A flat that she's singing, you can probably go somewhere else to get that off chord. And then somebody might say, well, that's fine, but let's switch it up. The producer might say, let's switch this up a little bit and give it a little bit of this. So as we're going, we're building chords around the voice. In each, pretty much in a few bars or whatever, until we have, you know, pretty much where we needed to go. But that was happening quite like frequently, where I just had to just play, listen to the voice, and decide what key. If it felt good to my ear, if it felt good to them, let's go with it. And then following me would be the bass player, the guitar player, and then they put it together, you know, and we have full remixes behind that.
Right. And what was the song?
Crazy in Love was one of them. That was the one for the Grammy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Crazy in Love. And that was 5 chords for the whole song.
Sure. And what might something like that sound like? Because sometimes I think people may not realize, they may just think that you're just basically having the machine do all the work. But break that down. What does that process either sound like or look like? I mean, you know, that's just a song that you use as an example. It can be any song though.
Right.
Sure.
Put it on the timeline. And then of course you have the producer that puts together the drums. So he has to put together the drums. And the drums are normally mixed in with the vocals. So when I get it, now the way we do it now is because he's at his home, you know, in Indiana, he'll send me the drums with the vocals. They're mixed in. So sometimes I say, hey man, you got it a little too low for me. Can you raise the vocals a little bit? So he can separate them because he has the vocals separate. And then he'll say, start the mix. Sometimes, a lot of times I don't like to start because I like to have him there with me. And so we'll sit down and we'll map out together what chords we think should fit. And that takes a little while, you know. Once we get that done, we move on to the bass line. Now I'm doing keyboard bass now instead of having a bass player. Now I'm playing guitar. Now I'm playing organ. Right. So we stack this whole song up in layers, and then the parts come in as what we call MIDI files. So the parts come in as MIDI files, general MIDI files, and so he's able to manipulate the files that I sent him. So if I play the piano from a Mercedes-Benz piano, I'll say a Yugo piano, like an old school, you know, he can take it and switch it to a Mercedes-Benz piano to give it that fire, you know. And once all the parts are laid and it feels good, then we'll call in an engineer to mix, you know, and then we send it in and get paid. It's pretty much that easy.
Sure. And what were some other situations like that just sort of happened because of either a connection or a friend or somebody that knew, you know, of your work and said, hey, he's the guy to get? I was always, when at the studio I was telling you about, since we were always doing remixes, there were a couple of people in the building that needed stuff done too. So I would work with them, and I would get paid with them, you know, from them as well. But then outside of that, let me tell you a quick story real quick. We went to Miami. Miami has a music conference I can't remember the name of it now, but it's this big house dance music conference in Miami every year. And wound up going, this was like, I think 96, 95, somewhere around in there. And this guy named is Hula Mahone. Okay. Now Hula, you don't know the name, but you know his music. You heard of this record called Boom Boom Boom? Well, let me hear you say way yo. Oh yeah, right. Okay, sure. I knew you would. Okay. And so, and his biggest record to date is Summertime by Fresh Prince.
Okay, sure. Produced that record. You heard of the Summertime record? Yes. That's my partner Hula. So, he was in Miami and he had heard about me through his partner that I was working with, you know, Maurice. So he says, hey man, you play keys. I heard your stuff. I want to get with you. Like, all right, cool. He said, well, let's meet and let's go parasailing and let's eat lunch and we'll hang out. I'm like, okay, here's my number. You know, okay, cool, man. I brushed the cat off. Right, of course. Brushed him off. Sure. Later on, he said, hey man, you faked me out. What happened? I thought you was gonna give me a call, man. I thought you wanted to work. And I said, man, I'm sorry. I don't know. I just freaked out. I don't know. This is a celebrity kind of guy, you know? Right. And so he says, well, I'll tell you what, you got my number. Call me when you get home. We're going to do some work. I called him and he put me on salary. Oh my gosh. Wow. Because he was loaded. He was loaded. Sure. Big old mansion he lived in and everything. And he had me doing a lot of records for him. A lot of records. So it took me away from my regular base
Sure.
to out in another area. So I would just get a load of clothes and just spend the night
Right.
in for a few days and just work on music for him. And that's what I did for a long time with both cats. And they were best friends. They went to high school together.
Oh,
but
wow.
but this guy wanted me more. So he hired me. So he put me on salary. So we had a good time working on a lot of different records. And I'm proud to say because my ear and my expertise took me a long way. And they trusted that I could do the job. So being a keyboard player and guitar player, it helped a lot, a whole lot.
Absolutely. Right, right. You had some of those key instruments that you really understand, not only how to play, but how they sound, what you're looking for, what to add in. So it's a good foundation. Talking about environment, so we can't help notice the wall of shame, although I think it's a wall of fame. What are some of the trinkets that you've accumulated as ode to the wonderful works you produced?
Janet Jackson, Michael Jackson. They don't talk about the record a lot, but it's Hold on Me.
Yeah.
Hold on Me, Michael Jackson. Don't talk about the record. It was a single that was promotional that was never released. So I said, I'm gonna take advantage of it and see if I can still get the record for it. So I called the company that makes the plaques, and they found it. So okay, we'll make it. So a lot of I got some more stuff. I just never ordered it. Some Destiny's Child. Check on It is my favorite record, I believe. If you get a chance, you can go to Check on It, the remix by Maurice Joshua. That is a beautiful melodic record. Oh, I had fun writing that. I play fun playing on that record. And when most people come up when I have my parties, that's the first record I play. I only play Crazy in Love.
Right.
So Omarion is up there, Shakira, and she sent personal messages back. She didn't like the mixes. Every time I would play, it was not, she didn't want that. She didn't want electric bass. She didn't want synth bass. She didn't want this type of bass, that type. It was just always something with her until we finally got it right.
And what did you sense that she was looking for? Was it just because of the elements of the type of place that she's at and what she hears?
It was the elements. And it took a while, and we started cursing, man. Like, what the heck she want, man? Like, hey, man, we didn't do this. I've done this like 6 times already. What is it that she wants? I think we wanted to bring a guy in live, and I think he covered it with the live. But it could have been based on, I'm not for sure, but electric synth bass, but she was very picky. Now, Beyoncé, she wouldn't call personally, but her team would call. Right. I think, and they would all listen to their mixes.
Sure.
Every mix that I worked on, they listened to them personally and say, "Oh, we love it. Send it in." Then they get the team or whatever and cut the check or whatever. So that was always a good thing. So yeah.
Right. Wow. Amazing. Talk to us about sort of this transition into really sort of doing TV shows and films a little bit more and kind of getting away from just the singles, because it seems like it really pulls in the depths of your full creativity and that you love it a lot more. As enjoyable as that was, like you said, you had been there, done that.
You talking about the transition from what I'm doing now to like television, film, stuff like that?
Yeah.
It's always a blessing to do, like, say, television or film, but like the transition out, it's just super easy. I mean, now you got characters on screen versus a cappella vocals, So I'm able to take a film and look at it and say, well, this is what needs to happen here. In this particular section of the film. If it's some action stuff going on, then I know where to go find my action sounds.
Right.
You have to know how to transition out of the action back into the melancholy, or when they ride back to the house after they stole the money, how do you get them back slowed down and subtle,
Right.
It's a whole process. My mom, I invited her over to watch me score the family business.
Right.
And she never got here. So she watched, when she saw it on television, she was like, well, man, the music sounded great. How did you know to add that?
Right.
Oh, that piece right there, how did you? I said, Ma, it's just instinct. It's just what you feel, you know, and then you have to know your equipment.
Yes.
I think every composer that's working like right now, they know where to go. They know what their stuff is. And a lot of times you may hear the same thing in the same, like another movie. Hans Zimmer is good for it. You may hear the cello, that same cello in another film, you know? So I'm like, okay, if he can do it, I can do it. So we have a arsenal of sounds that we keep on deck and that we can use. And then on your downtime, what you're supposed to do is go and look for these great sounds and lock them in. Right. So when it's time to do a film, oh, I remember that sound. I remember that, you know. So then you know where to find these sounds at. So it's interesting. I tell people all the time, your sound is your bread and butter. If you don't have a sound or a brand, nobody's gonna hire you. Nobody's gonna. I mentioned that in that magazine, the Post, Indie Post. I mentioned that your sound is everything. You have to have a sound. Right. And a lot of people feel like it's a joke. No, it's serious. I invest thousands of dollars a year in sound. Right. You know, and then the free stuff too. I use a lot of free stuff on the family business, and it totally worked. You know, totally worked.
Right, and I wanted to get at that a little bit because I presume that there's a library, almost like a sample logic type of a library, where this is all, the consumer can use it as they want because the residuals are all worked out on the back end. And does that sometimes either help decrease the budget, or do you just sense, oh, it's a familiarity that works for this scene, and so you don't want to, try to reinvent the wheel, so to speak?
No, not for me. I organically, I create, I compose and create. So there's not one sound that I use that was, say, for instance, bought online, like a pack. Like you can buy these packs of sounds and just drop them in, like you say. Right. I didn't have to do that. There were, when I say free sounds, we call them plugins, of course. And you drop the plugins inside of the player, and then you can have access to playing them however you want to play them. But there were no sounds that I use, what we call stock. Right. Stock sounds that you buy online. No, I didn't do that, because then I would be cheating myself as a player. Like, why would I go and buy, some commercial sounds when I can make them and create them myself? So I've been very blessed to have that ear to say, you know what, let me go find out what sounds are online, and if they sound good, I get them. And just today or yesterday, this one company that I support a lot, it's called Heavyosity. They make all the best stuff. I mean, it's a bunch of companies out there, but they released a free choir. And I said, I needed this choir the other day. I just did a promo spot for a commercial, and I needed a choir. But I found one in my, my set, but I wanted that choir, the new choir, So it's always, you're always trying to find the best or the newest sound, what's going to be next. If I'm to do the family business next season, how am I going to up the ante sound-wise? That's all I'm thinking about. Like, what am I going to be using new? I can't use anything I use. Some of the stuff I can, but a lot of the newer stuff I need to be getting on top of that, so that's what's gonna happen.
Sure. And I wanted to just spend, because I love us covering some of this technical stuff, about the difference between when you've gotten the film. So producer or director may send you an episode or two, and then you'll score it and it still hasn't been released yet, versus scoring when the film hasn't been shot yet, or you don't get the chance to see. You only have a sense of where they're going. Talk to me about the challenges of doing the latter, because that seems very hard to do.
Normally I don't get it until they're finished.
Okay.
So I don't have a concept of what I should be doing.
Right.
So I don't worry about that part. I worry about when I get it, what it's gonna sound like, because I already have an idea. In some cases, I receive a script.
Right.
So, and then sometimes the scripts I label, okay, music here, you know.
Right.
Some films I've done have music cues for music already, you know, laid out. And they'll say, well, at section 101, we want this music. At section 102, we want this music. And it should sound like this. It should have a string and the Rhodes added. Whomever wrote that particular note out that time, those notes, they did a great job, because it was a Christmas movie on BET called For the Love of Christmas 7 years ago. And whomever wrote these notes, they did a fantastic job. And then I got spoiled because I wanted all my films like that.
Right, right.
You know,
and when you say that, you say it more so because you know sort of the cues of when things will start and end, and they're married, as opposed to, oh, well, I'll take my best guess at it, and then a producer may come back and say, oh, we weren't really thinking that you would be so dramatic right there, or we were thinking this, or we wanted to, you know, psych them out.
Yeah, you're on point 100%. And I've done that, and then it's like you said, well, we're not gonna put it right there. You can pull that out. Well, if you had to give me cues, then I would be through with your film instead of a month, and I'd be finished in 3 weeks.
Sure, right.
Because I have the cues and stuff. And I tell all my directors, I say, look, well, if you can write out your cue list and where you want your music, or where you think you may want your music, let me know. Put it in, write the notes out, and I'll follow the notes to the T.
Right.
They never do it. So, like you said, I have to guess now.
Right.
You know, and I'm sitting there doing this film. I'm gonna probably work on it and start in the morning, but I'm not happy with the score. I'm not totally happy with what I sound like. You know, I can do better, and I've never had to really redo a whole movie, but I may have to, based on the fact that it doesn't sound sonically clean to me. So I'm gonna have to go and clean it up. Same sections, new music, you know, new sounds, you know. And so I should be able to do that with the quickness. But yeah, you wanna, I'm anal, but like I'm a perfectionist.
Sure.
I want it right.
You know, you're talking about sounds. Our show is called Music and Medicine. When you hear those words, what does that mean to you?
Music and medicine?
Yeah.
Healing, therapeutic. I worked at this is funny, this is a good subject title. I worked at a psychiatric hospital.
Okay.
Like I was in between jobs as I was teaching school. Well, see, I have my certificate, so I could always go back. So I tried the psychiatric thing, and they had a piano in the break room. Sure. And let me tell you something. I was so happy to see that piano.
I can imagine.
I asked the director every other day, hey, you know, because I wanted that job of being the therapist, a music therapist.
Right.
I wasn't qualified, but I knew I could do it. I knew I could get these patients.
Yes.
And she wouldn't let me do it, man. They would let me. I did play.
Sure. Right. Okay.
But they didn't want to put that in the payroll part of it, you know.
Right. Sure.
And I was disappointed. And so on my breaks, I would go into the therapy room and the recreational room, and the patients would be just sitting.
Of course. Sorry.
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, beautiful. And then you see them shaking their heads, and the ones that were like really like medicated, heavily medicated.
Right. It's right. Some kind of rhythm, but just a little slower.
Right. They understood that was therapy for them, and it helped.
Sure. Yeah.
And I don't think they appreciated that, so they wound up letting me go because of that.
Wow.
I was so hurt, but the next day I was back at the school.
Right. Back to teaching. And right. I want to tease that out because it comes up with so many of our interviews. You know, we see these things all the time. We say these things all the time, like music is universal language. In what way did that actually hit you, being able to literally create, so to speak, that moment and that connection with people who you may have been challenged in terms of their health? It
was just it's a natural instinct for me. That's number one. just been a natural instinct for me to say, wow, this is let me see, like a person that was from Lithuania or something like that, you know, because we had a bunch of, I was like way up on the other side of town, so these patients were from all over, you know, Germany and everything, immigrants and things like that, but with mental illness problems. And I figured if I could reach this person that was from Germany, I could reach this person that was from Czech, you know what I'm saying? So music is universal. So I could probably play some songs that they could relate to, that they would say, oh, I remember that song. You know, it brings them back maybe to their childhood or something. And that's how I would reach them. So even in kindergarten graduations, when I would play the piano, I wouldn't play the standard or traditional, you know, kindergarten songs. Hey, I was playing Babyface. I was playing the Terry Lewis Jimmy Jam. And then some parent behind me was like, was that Cry Together you played by the O'Jays? So you have to reach everybody, you know, so that kind of works for me. And a lot of times I'm not the greatest piano player, but I get the job done. You know, I'm not professing to be one of those guys that play across the keys and real fast. You don't have to do that. It's just what you do. Do what you do, stay in your lane, do what you do, and make it happen.
What are some bigger things, even if not super specific about a particular project, but where you see yourself evolving to over these next few years?
I would say we call it sync music, sync placement. That's really where I want to go. A friend of mine said yesterday, he said, man, you're doing TV. Why you want to go to sync? Because sync doesn't pay no more than $3,000, maybe $15,000. But and television is more. If you get network television, it's much more, you know. But I want to go do sync because I want to do Super Bowl. I want to do NBA. That's where I want to land at. That's a house. One of those is a house, brand new, and built from the ground, you know, with royalties, you know, in tow. So that, and as well as I would like to be in a situation to help others, you know, on the side, to set up some kind of film camp, music camp, you know, film composing camp, and to continue to do master classes, you know, do master classes. I have a couple of them coming up, one at the high school and one at the grammar school for Black History Month. And those things I would always have because my knowledge of, and I can tell these people the do's and don'ts or whatever. But yeah, I see next few years just continuously doing what I'm doing. But then I prophesize not working, like say doing the BET stuff, which is fine. That's a level. But now let's go to another tier. Let's get to Paramount. Right, let's get to Universal. You know, let's get to, you know, what else? What, you know, the bigger companies, you know, Lionsgate, things like that. And then working with big name producers or directors, you know, like Antoine Fuqua, people like that. Fuqua, yeah, people like that. It only takes one time for them to hear my work and see what I'm doing or whatever, and for them to say, hey, let's bring this cat in. It only takes one time. That's what I want to be, man. That's, you know, and I continue to strive for that. And just now that I look at it, it's not that hard. Now with the internet, it's not that hard at all. And then the ultimate goal is to win an Oscar. And I'm not too far from that. I'm doing all these films. I'm working on documentaries and things that people are submitting to the Academy. So they have to have what you call like a contingency type of thing where they can submit the film and hope that their film gets picked for that. So that's just a matter of time, you know. And I don't know if it's going to be a short film or a feature. I'm hoping it's a feature, you know. And I'm going to tell you what inspired me. A.A. Rahman from Slumdog Millionaire.
Oh yeah, sure, Slumdog, sure.
When I saw that film, the music was great, but when he got on stage and talked about the equipment he used, I said, I'm using Logic too.
Exactly. Right, same thing.
You know, I'm using Logic. I said, well, if he can do it, this is an independent film, I can do it. Yeah. So well, from that, of course, Prince and Lionel Richie and all of them have won Oscars and things like that. But I say, I can do this. This is in my mind, it's easier now.
Right.
Hopefully Will Smith don't try to come on the stage and try to take it away from me or something.
That's cool. You'll watch your comments. Just
okay.
Won't make any jokes about summertime.
Right.
All the lyrics. This music was great. But yeah, no, this has been so wonderful. I appreciate you giving us a mini masterclass here, just really covering some of those more technical aspects. You heard it here from Rod Diggy himself, that not only does he continue to see the sky's the limit, but he's really been willing to put in that time. And first, working with musical artists and things like that were more singers and performers, but then really sort of moving over towards TV and film. He has much larger goals, and I love the way you continue to point out different people that inspired you, even if they were somewhat critical, like let's say when you worked with Shakira, or very supportive, like when you worked with Maurice Joshua. And that's so helpful to see that you continue to find mentors and aspire to greatness and work with other people who are great, and then continue to want to help other students really following your footsteps. I think that's wonderful because you're already doing it. You're already doing the teaching and reaching back before you get to such an uber level that yes, maybe you could do it times 10, but you're not waiting, you're not waiting just to help others.
Let me tell you something. 2:00 this morning, I was in an inbox with somebody that was a showrunner for the show, because I've been trying to, this is local shows.
Yes.
You get to that, so, but it's hard. It's not hard, but people, sometimes they don't want to let you in. So you
absolutely.
You have to do it yourself. So I've been working on that. So hey, I don't know if this guy's still the showrunner or not, but I did send him a text. And hopefully, if he is, he'll maybe respond. If not, but it's okay, because it's okay. It's okay if you don't respond. It's okay if you say no at this time. On to the next one.
Right, exactly. Right. Just keep pressing, keep on pushing.
Oh yeah. And that's why I'm so happy about it. I'm energized about it. And a lot of people, I know a friend of mine years ago said, man, he was so disgusted and so let down by not getting a record deal. And he says, man, if I could kill music, I would kill music. I'm like, oh my God. Is that how you really feel?
That's pessimistic.
Go drink some juice. Go drink some fruit juice, man, and feel better about yourself. See, I thought this was going to be more, help intertwined with music, which it could still be. We did kind of say something like that. But let me just say this right quick to all my people that will be listening and watching. I think daily, we definitely have to keep our bodies in check. I'm not in the best health, but I do try to do the right things. You know what I'm saying? So drinking a glass of lemon with some honey and some turmeric and stuff, and feeling energized coming into the studio. See, I just had some green tea. So that's why I'm on 10 right now.
And you were telling us about, since you want to share a couple of secrets, just some of the things you do to not only keep yourself healthy, but have those tinctures that not only keep you positive and upbeat, but also keep you, able to deal with those winter colds that might come along.
Beet juice. That's good for your arteries and things like that. But I mix beet juice with orange, and then with ginger. So I can juice that, and man, that's some good juice. Golly. I had a smoothie this morning, pineapples, banana, spinach, so I have to mix my fruit and my veggies, like that. So I've been feeling like I get up in the morning, I'm not hungry. That's one thing. I'm not hungry, I eat till like 3 today, or maybe 4. So no, I was eating at 6 when you was texting, when you sent the message out. But I'm like, wow, I don't feel hungry. I don't know what's going on. So it's little things like that. When I was in Dubai, I picked up a lot of extra teas, a lot of the natural raw rooted teas. I have a lot of those, hibiscus and a lot of the stuff. So that stuff helps a lot. Helps your bloodstream, helps you think clearly. Maybe a cap of olive oil, you can just drink it down with some lemon. Man, all that stuff is just good for you. And it helps me, when I'm creating, I don't have to feel like, oh man, I can't think today.
And it sounds like your time in Dubai has had a direct impact on you, like I said, having more access to juices, natural products, and things like that, and then bringing them back home and incorporating them into your life to try to, you know, eat a little healthier and be a bit more cleaner.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I did fall off the wagon over there, but when I got home, the first thing I did was went and got me a hydrotherapy, and after the hydrotherapy, I went back into my juicing. And the doctor was like, man, look at your skin.
And I don't want to let that word slip for granted. Tell us what hydrotherapy is and what that looked like for you. Because sometimes, you know, but that's not as commonly seen here in the States.
Yeah, a lot of people don't do it. Hydrotherapy is when they lay you on the table and they take this tube and they insert it to be able to flush out toxins out of your intestines with water. Simple water. And when I was taking that, because I do no sugar and no, like, say, no sugar, no salts, and no sodas, anything like that for like, say, 30 days, something like that. And when I went in, nothing came out because I was already clean. I'm like, are you serious? I'm on the table like 45 minutes and just clear water. I'm like, what? So that made me feel good. But a lot of people don't do hydrotherapy, and then our bodies, a lot of times, their bodies are not programmed to go, use the restroom when they're supposed to. When you had a bowel movement last week, what? I'm supposed to have a bowel movement like at least 3 times a day. I'm just keeping it real, So, with that said, I got a doctor up on the north side of town. He charges about $50 for about an hour, or less, a little about 45 minutes or whatever. And I come out feeling good. I'm feeling lighter, and I know I'm gonna have to go back before I go back and leave in April, so I'll do it. I have no problem with it. A lot of people say, no, I'm not, nobody's sticking nothing up in me. These macho guys. And it's about our health.
Sure. And then one of the last things I want to touch on, because we see it a lot, especially in the music industry, a lot of late hours, a lot of long time. How do you recommend people stay inspired to actually exercise and sometimes step away from the console?
Walking, taking a walk, taking a breather. If it's late, I don't work as late as I used to. I have, but now since I'm not working my regular job, then it's during the day now that I can work, and I have all the evening to watch the games, things like that. So, and wait, I have like a couple flat screens here, so I'll hook up another flat screen. TV is on and I'm working, and I can double up,
Right.
So I wear my compression socks. I take my walks, and things like that, and just some stretches. I went online and they got some little exercises you can do while you're sitting.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and then they got one you can take your arm and kind of pat your arm right here.
Exactly right. Work out those muscles. Yeah.
So
stiff. Exactly. So easy.
Exactly. So things like that help a lot, and I want to get more into it as time goes on. But I like the path I'm on now, but I know I have to amp it up. I have to.
You got to do a little bit more work to stay in shape.
Yeah, I have to.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for being so willing to give so much, not only to our ears, but also to our minds in terms of the sounds that you produce, as well as just really seeing somebody juggling 2 completely different lives. It's a very different world over there. And to meet somebody who's, really deep in the US, a place like Chicago and things like that, who also has a whole nother life and world they've created, and keeping that balance, but also, like I said, the giving back, that really, that's so important. It's very touching to see the willingness and your really sincere heart to help young people be inspired the same way you were inspired, and the same way. And I caught up in the very beginning when you mentioned Mr. Bando, your leader, who
Mr. Bando,
side and
mentor. I try to mention him in every interview now. He's like, I think 85, and good dude, good guy. So I try to just maintain, and he's a vegetarian in high school. That's how we started that understanding about eating healthy. you know.
Sure. A pleasure, much continued success. You've heard it here from Robb Diggy himself, phenomenal composers, worked with amazing artists, and now doing so many TV shows and films and things like that, that we just hope for his continued success. And of course, have to do a big shout out to Desiree Benson, best publicist out there, and appreciate her being willing to help us connect. So thanks so much to both of you.
Two things before we go. Two short things. One thing is tomorrow, my movie comes on BET. It's called I Got Problems. It's a comedy, dramedy. And the other thing is, midnight tonight, I think it is. And then the other thing is, if you ever are in need of the sounds, like I create ethereals, rain, thunders, and things like that. If you know anybody that needs them, I create them, you know. Sometimes for a small fee, some donation or whatever, but I do them. So just letting that out there.
And tell us where we can find you.
Okay, you can find me on Instagram under composer, the number 4, and then films with a Z.
Right, exactly, composer for films. Thanks so much.
That's Robb Diggy, or you can just say Robb Diggy, and that's on all platforms anyway.
Welcome to Music and Medicine. Welcome to Music and Medicine. Welcome to Music and Medicine. I'm your host, Dr. Moshe Lewis.